You're at a cookout this weekend. Burgers on the grill, kids running around, and your neighbor, the guy in the plain t-shirt, driving that beat-up Honda he's had since 2016, casually mentions he just paid cash for a rental property. No big announcement. No Instagram post. He just said it, then went back to eating his burger. 2 streets over, there's a guy with a brand new leased BMW, a kitchen renovation he won't stop talking about, and a credit card balance that would make your stomach drop. And somehow, you already know which one actually has money. But here's the thing most people get completely wrong. Wealth in America doesn't look like what they sold you on TV. It doesn't drive what you think it drives. It doesn't wear what you think it wears. And it almost never announces itself. I've spent 8 years in the debt relief industry talking to people across every income level. And I can tell you, the people who look rich and the people who actually are rich are almost never the same person. Today, I'm giving you 13 reasons how you can tell someone is genuinely wealthy. And by the end of this, you're going to think about money completely differently. My name is your name. I'm a sales manager in the debt relief industry. 8 years working with people in real financial situations, people drowning in debt, people rebuilding from zero, and yes, people who quietly had more money than anyone around them ever realized. I've seen what financial stress looks like up close. And I've seen what real financial freedom looks like too. The difference between the two is almost never what people expect. Let's get into it. Sign number 1. They drive something boring on purpose. The number 1 car brand among American millionaires is Toyota. Number 2 is Honda. Number 3 is Ford. Not Tesla. Not BMW. Not a leased Mercedes. Toyota, Honda, Ford. This comes from a national study of over 10,000 actual millionaire households. And separately, researcher Thomas Stanley spent 40 years studying wealthy people and found that 86% of luxury vehicles in this country are driven by people who are not millionaires. So the next time you see a brand new Range Rover pull up next to you at a red light, the statistically correct reaction is not envy. It's mild concern. The person who has driven the same Camry for 9 years and shrugs every time you bring it up, that shrug is wealth. They paid cash for it. They plan to drive it until it dies. And they're putting the $800 a month they're not spending on a car payment directly into an investment account. Sign number 2. Their house is surprisingly normal. Stanley's research found that the typical American millionaire bought a home worth roughly 1.5 times their annual income, most capped at 3 times. The average American today is stretching to buy a home worth 6 or 7 times what they make in a year. Here's the brutal truth about housing that wealthy people understand and most people don't. Your house controls your entire financial life. The mortgage sets your monthly floor. The neighborhood sets your social pressure. The square footage sets your insurance, your property taxes, and how much furniture you feel like you need to buy. Every dollar locked into an oversized house is a dollar that cannot compound for you. Warren Buffett still lives in the same 5-bedroom house in Omaha he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He's worth over $100 billion. The person in your life with the totally normal house in the totally normal neighborhood who has zero interest in upgrading? That's not a lack of ambition. That is the ambition. Sign number 3. You don't recognize anything they're wearing. Stanley surveyed actual American millionaires and found that half of them had never paid more than $400 for a suit in their entire lives. Half had never paid more than $235 for a watch. Half had never paid more than $140 for a pair of shoes. The typical millionaire's haircut, tip included, ran about $16 at a regular barbershop. You know what they're not wearing? Visible logos. No giant belt buckles. No monogram everything. No look at me luxury. Real wealth doesn't advertise itself. The whole point is that you wouldn't know. Sign number 4. They built it themselves. According to a national study of millionaires, 79% of American millionaires received zero inheritance. 8 out of 10 built it themselves. Only 3% ever inherited $1 million or more. And 80% came from middle-class or working-class families. The wealthiest person you actually know personally, not the loudest, the wealthiest, there's a very good chance their parents drove a beat-up car and clipped coupons. Real wealth in this country almost always looks like a regular person who quietly out-earned, out-saved, and out-invested everyone they grew up with. Sign number 5. They have a really boring job. The top 5 professions in the millionaire study were engineer, accountant, teacher, manager, and attorney. Not hedge fund manager. Not tech founder. Not surgeon. Teacher made the list. Manager made the list. 2/3 of self-made millionaires ran what researchers call dull, normal businesses. Pest control companies, welding contractors, mobile home park owners, dry cleaners. Not glamorous, just boring businesses that throw off cash year after year after year. Ronald Reed was a gas station attendant and part-time janitor in Vermont. He drove a second-hand Toyota. When he died, his neighbors found out he had quietly built an $8 million stock portfolio, working at a gas station. He just bought solid companies and held them for 6 decades. Sign number 6. They know their numbers cold. Wealthy people can tell you their net worth to the nearest $10,000. They know their monthly burn rate. They know their savings rate as a percentage of income. They know what their portfolio is allocated to and roughly what return they're earning. Only about 54% of American families have any retirement account at all. Meanwhile, 80% of millionaires contributed consistently to their employer 401k. If you have a friend who casually mentions they max out their 401k, their Roth IRA, and their HSA, they are not just doing well. They are in a tiny statistical minority of disciplined savers. The wealthy know their numbers because the numbers are how they got there. Sign number 7. They have never carried a credit card balance. 3 out of 4 millionaires in the national study said they have never in their entire lives carried a credit card balance month to month. Not once. They use the cards for points and convenience. Then they pay them off in full every single statement. Americans collectively owe over $1.2 trillion in credit card debt right now. Average interest rate around 23%. That is not a debt you climb out of casually. Wealthy people structurally avoid consumer debt of any kind. They don't finance furniture. They don't take out loans for vacations. They don't put a swimming pool on a home equity line of credit. They understand that paying interest on things that lose value is just lighting money on fire. Sign number 8. They're vague about what they do. When you ask a truly wealthy person what they do for a living, the answer is almost always short, vague, and slightly redirective. I'm in real estate. I run a small business. Consulting. Then they immediately turn the question back on you. Compare that to the person who looks wealthy but isn't. Ask them what they do and you get a job title, a company name, years of tenure, the size of their team, and 3 name drops before you can change the subject. Real money doesn't introduce itself. Sign number 9. They have income you don't know about. Wealthy people almost always have multiple income streams running quietly in the background. A rental property, a dividend portfolio, a side business, royalty income from something they built years ago. IRS data shows that people in the top wealth brackets are roughly 4 times more likely to have 3 or more sources of income than the average household. Think about the person in your life who works a normal job but always seems to have options. Like they could quit tomorrow and not panic. That is almost never just a high salary. There is something else running in the background. Sign number 10. They live in the wrong neighborhood on purpose. Wealthy people deliberately live in neighborhoods where they are at the top of the local income distribution, not the bottom. If your house is the second nicest on the block, your social pressure to upgrade is essentially zero. Compare that to buying the smallest house in the most expensive zip code you can stretch into. Now your neighbors all have nicer cars. Your kids' friends all take fancier vacations. And that pressure converts directly into spending. The person who could afford a fancier neighborhood and just didn't move? They removed the social pressure to spend. Sign number 11. They play incredible defense. Most people think wealth comes from offense. Picking the right stock, starting the right business, catching the right trend. But getting rich and staying rich are 2 completely different skills. Getting rich requires risk. Staying rich requires humility, frugality, and patience. The average retail investor has underperformed the S&P 500 for years because of behavior. Panic selling, performance chasing, market timing. The actually wealthy person buys the index and does nothing for 30 years. Sign number 12. They think in decades, not months. Wealthy people think in decades. Everyone else thinks in months. They invest for 30 years. They drive a car for 12. They hold the same job long enough for the equity to vest. They pay off the mortgage and leave it paid off. Compounding has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with patience and time. The first $100,000 is brutal. After that, your money starts hiring more money. Wealthy people are willing to be bored for decades to get there. Sign number 13. They buy time, not things. This is the deepest one. The truly wealthy understand that the entire point of money is to buy back your time. Every financial decision they make runs through one filter. Does this purchase make me freer or does it make me more obligated? A leased luxury car obligates you to a massive monthly payment. A paid-off Toyota gives you freedom. A huge mortgage chains you to a job you might hate. A smaller house gives you options. Chuck Feeney co-founded Duty Free Shoppers and built a fortune of around $8 billion. He wore a $15 plastic watch his entire life. When someone asked why he didn't wear a Rolex, he said, "Why would I? It tells the same time." That is what secretly wealthy looks like. Knowing what enough is, and being completely uninterested in playing past it. Here's the honest truth about all 13 of these signs. None of them are about income. None of them are about luck. None of them require a six-figure salary or a perfect financial history. They are all about decisions. Repeated, boring, unglamorous decisions made consistently over a long period of time. The person driving the beat-up Honda is not poor. The person in the leased BMW is not rich. And the sooner you stop letting appearances tell you which one to copy, the sooner you start building something real. I've spent 8 years watching people dig out of debt and build toward financial freedom. And the ones who make it don't look like what you see on social media. They look like your quiet neighbor who just paid cash for a rental property and went back to eating his burger. That can be you. It starts with the decisions you make this week. Now that you know the 13 signs, the next step is building the financial habits that actually get you there. Click the link below to get started. And drop in the comments which one of these 13 signs matched someone you know. If this video hit, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for weekly videos on debt, credit, and building real financial freedom. I'll see you in the next one.